hail, torrential rain, high winds, even tornadoes touching down. It's been quite a week for weather here in Calgary and area. Gardens look like chopped salad, cars are dented, and a number of homes have been damaged. Yesterday at this time, Heather Mack with the Insurance Bureau of Canada told us why she thinks this weather is the new normal. And she said that we need to think about how we can make our homes and buildings more resistant to severe weather. Well, that's exactly the type of research Glenn McGillivray is doing. He is the Managing Director of the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction in Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us a bit about what your institute does.
Well, we've been around for over 18 years, and we try to reduce the negative impact of severe weather and earthquake on Canadians.
And how do you do your weather testing? Paint a picture for us of your facility and how you simulate these conditions.
Well, we are formally and legally an institute of the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, and we have access to 3 great wind labs there. One of them we love to call the Three Little Pigs Lab, and we call it that for a good reason. We built a full-scale home in that lab, and we ripped the roof off of it basically to determine how we can build homes better, and particularly roofs.
And what kind of wind speeds do you subject those homes to?
Well, that roof, we finally pulled the roof off at a F3 tornado, so that's a fairly significant tornado. And on one hand, we were happy to see that the roof held up for up to an F3, but it did fail. And we do, through that work, we recognize that there are things that we can do, and sometimes really inexpensive things that we can do to prevent such damage from happening.
And what can we do to protect our homes in the event of violent storms or tornado-like winds?
Well, when it comes to winds, a lot of what can be done and should be done kind of occurs at the initial construction stage. Some of the things are harder to do when we're talking about retrofitting, but when we're building new homes, one of the great things is to put hurricane straps on the roof. These are very inexpensive metal fittings, and for about $150 to $200, including labor and parts, we can prevent roofs from being pulled off of homes in lower grade tornadoes.
Hail. A lot of us had hail damage earlier this week. It's not the first time we've been hit by this kind of hail here in Calgary and area. So what materials will help our homes be more hail resistant?
A lot of it starts with the roof. So if we can put a Class 4 asphalt shingle on a roof, if you're going with asphalt, the Class 4 is the best, and it will hold up to about 95% of all hailstorms. Metal roofs are also good. I've heard a little bit about rubber tiles. I'm not really familiar with them right now. But Class 4 asphalt roofs, and more than 95% of roofs in Canada are asphalt, they've been tested, they've been rated for these storms, and they hold up to hail really well. The other thing that we see in really intense hailstorms is siding damage, of course, and so vinyl siding is really adept to getting damaged. So one of the things people turn to is cement board and fiberboard. So a couple of years ago, you'd have to paint that stuff every couple of years, but you don't have to do that anymore. It comes in a range of colors, and it holds up very well to even the largest of hailstorms.
You were talking about those hurricane straps for roofs to prevent them from coming off are very inexpensive at the construction phase. What about these Class 4 asphalt shingles you're talking about, and the siding? What are the costs of those?
Actually, I'm not overly familiar with the cost of the siding. It's going to cost you more than vinyl, of course. But depending on the size of a roof, a Class 4 asphalt shingle might cost you about $1,000 or more than a regular roof, but it'll save you a lot of grief.
Sure. Heather Mack also mentioned hail blankets for cars. What do you make of those?
Well, there are many of these available, particularly in the U.S., and many of these companies say that they protect your vehicle. The thing is, they haven't really been tested or rated, so we're not quite sure about that. It sounds like a good plan, particularly in smaller hailstorms. We're not so sure about the big ones yet, and I'd love to see some tests being done on those sorts of things. But the tried and true method of protecting your car is putting it under cover. So putting it in a garage, putting it under a carport, that sort of thing, that works for sure.
What about flood prevention? A number of Calgary homes had water in the basement this week. Of course, we had that horrible flood back in 2013, and it comes up now and again.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's the number one problem for homeowners in Canada. The type of damage you just described described has surpassed fire damage now as the most common form of insurance claim. There are a number of things that people can do. The province of Alberta has pretty much required backwater valves be installed in all new homes for a number of years now. They're a leader in that area. The city of Edmonton has required backwater valves in all new homes since 1989. They are really tried and true. They're not a silver bullet. They won't solve all your problems, but they're very, very good preventing sewage from backing up into basements. Other things that you can do is disconnecting your downspouts from your weeping tiles and getting that water about 6 feet away from your foundation. Making sure your soil on your property slopes away from the home to take water away from the home. Keeping your eaves troughs clear of debris and that sort of thing. These all help very, very much. And if you're buying a new home or even an existing home, I think twice about buying a home with a reverse slope driveway. Think twice about buying a home with exterior stairwells and below-grade walkouts. Those things are all quite bad for bringing water to the house, and that's something you don't want to do. You want to bring it away from the home.
And how about sump pumps?
Sump pumps, it can be pretty complicated. I really suggest that people sit down and learn a few things about them. We have a booklet to help. It's at ICLR.org. But having just a sump pump is not enough. You should have a backup pump. If that pump is working all the time, you should have a primary, a secondary, and a backup. So 3 pumps, depending on how hard your sump has to work. Also, backup power is really, really key because power outages usually come hand in hand with these storms. So you can have a battery backup. So you could run the pump for a few hours on a marine battery. You can get those kits at Canadian Tire, Home Depot, whatever. A neat thing is to have your backup sump pump running off the potable water supply in your home. So it's a pretty neat idea. It's kind of ironic, but it's neat as long as you have the water pressure, the proper water pressure to run those pumps. But you really having a backup sump pump and backup power is really key.
Glenn, you lead the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction. What do you expect in the coming years in terms of severe weather?
The situation will only get worse, and that's for many reasons. It's wrong to point just at climate change, but climate change is certainly a part of it. Urbanization, just our cities are getting bigger. There's more pavement. There's more people using water. There's more people producing wastewater. We're digging up our green spaces and putting in pavement. We're putting in big box stores. All these things are contributing to a worsening situation. And, every day that we wake up, our infrastructure is a day older. It's in many cases in pretty poor shape. So a bunch of things are combining to point to a kind of a bleaker future for severe weather in Canada. And mitigation is the answer. People, including homeowners, have to take the bull by the horns, understand that these things do happen. They do happen to them, and they have to take some measures to protect themselves.
Glenn, who's leading the world in terms of construction?
Well, it's hard to say, but we do build a very good home in Canada. There's absolutely no question about it. Our building codes are very strong. Our home builders are very professional. They do a good job. But there are gaps, and we like to work here at ICLR to try to fill those gaps and suggest things like the hurricane straps and like the backwater valves and different things like that. And if we can fill those gaps, we'll be all the better for it, I think.
Glenn, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Glenn McGillivray is the Managing Director of the Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction. We reached him this morning in Toronto.